BYU in Kansas. Kind of a under the radar game, I would say, just for the schedule as a whole for college football on Saturday. Kansas at home, favored by 8.5 or 9, depending on where you look, and a total of 54.5. So I want to first start off something here before I get to you with BYU. And BYU had a pretty weird game against Arkansas. I think a game that they lose more times than they win, but they ended up winning and covering and winning by 7. Arkansas dominated time of possession. They had one turnover, but they also dominated yards per play, or at least led by almost a yard. Just a game that I think that BYU was fortunate to win. And now we're coming into this one with a Kansas team that has looked good and I think is a pretty talented team. But, we're looking for a double-digit win to have Kansas cover at home. So what's your lean in this one?
Oh, this is another tough one because I mean, Jalen Daniels has looked good. He's at a 75% completion rate. He looks like he just picked up where he left off last season, basically. And even on the road, I mean, he was pretty efficient, despite what the score says. But I don't know. I think that's a lot of points.
It is.
Uh,
We're talking, we're talking a touchdown and a field goal, or, 2 touchdowns. It definitely is a big spread for a BYU team that I think does have talent, and I think up front pretty good, but can they score? Because I think it's going to be. I personally think it's going to go over. Can they keep up scoring wise?
Yeah, so that's what I was leaning because I had the under in the BYU Arkansas game. And we all know how that played out, but I would lean over here if I had to pick something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, can't, but then again, I mean, I could see Kansas winning by like 10, so that
Yeah.
line is interesting. I find it funny that the total for the last 3 games that we've talked about is almost exactly the
Yeah,
same.
that's
Right around
funny. I didn't
50.
even think about that. Yeah.
So,
Total's coming down though. It was a 55.5, 56.5. So it's coming down a little bit, which I don't know if I'm surprised at that, but look at Circa. Someone hit it at Circa. 55.5 down to 54. Actually, this is getting a little bit of two-way action, and the reason why I say that is because it hit 57.5, and then it went back down to 54. So, I mean, it could be a head fake, but maybe
yeah.
someone just really had something there. I don't think any news came out. Weather, I mean, we did talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
I guess, the Midwest. There could be some wind in this one.
Yeah. So as of right now, I'm glad you mentioned that. I've got that right here. Right now, they're looking at 15-mile-per-hour winds and a chance of showers and thunderstorms because that front should be somewhere in that area at that time. Now, of course,
That could be maybe why we saw.
a little bit of
Yeah, because
yeah.
weather, if there is no weather, I agree with you and Scrunch, and I said it, I lean over, but then, maybe some sharper bettors came in at Circa and they said, well, the weather forecast potentially could be, wind and rain.
Mm. Yeah, so if they keep the ball on the ground. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be, but again, if it ends up being a 11, 12 mile per hour wind, it might not make a difference.
Mhm.
But as of right now, I mean, it's a solid 15. So we'll see how that I'm sure that's going to change because that's a 3:30 game.
Mhm.
And UCF Kansas State is an 8:30 or 8 o'clock game, and it's also the same forecast: chance of showers and thunderstorms and 15-mile-per-hour winds.
Mhm.
So it'll depend on kind of where that front is located at the time. So maybe keep an eye on this. It's already dropped, like you said, it's already dropped a couple points.
Mhm.
So maybe wait until it drops a little further and then maybe take the over if that's, if that's still appealing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you could do something similarly to what I did in the Bama, UCF game, or sorry, USF. I took a live under because it started to rain, and I got a little fortunate because they ended up post or can't or what's the word I'm looking for? Not postponing, delaying. There we go. They delayed the game. I think there must have been lightning, right? I mean, they rarely will delay a game because of rain unless
Oh, oh yeah, no, there was a
it was
there was a
lightning.
pretty big thunderstorm like right over the stadium
Yeah,
for a while, and heavy rain too. So
yeah.
heavy
So in
rain
the Discord, I'm like under, like uh,
and
Buckner can't complete a 5-yard pass, a screen pass in the rain, and then they delayed the game, and I was like, "Oh, shit," like, it's gonna come back to, like, sunny skies or whatever, but luckily, offenses didn't really do anything, and that was a pretty easy win, for the live game, so, yeah, you could hit this live and just kinda wait. I mean, I know we talk a lot about CLV, but, um, even if it gets down to, like, 52 and then the game's live and it drops down to 48 and teams just cannot throw the ball and they're struggling, like, it's still okay to play an under because the game state has changed, but you just have to be really confident in what you're seeing out there.
right, and I will add too that, the over has hit in, I think, BYU's last 5 out of 7 and in Kansas's last 5 out of 7.
So they're trending.
So they both teams trend over or have been trending over, and yeah, so and it might be where in a game like this that the weather might be enough to, um, kind of push that under. So it might be actually a pretty impactful weather game in this case, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see if the forecast holds, of course.
Mhm,
If it holds at 15 miles per hour, that could be enough to keep that maybe in the low 50s or upper 40s,
mhm,
especially with BYU's kind of, just we're not really sure. It's their first Big 12 game,
mhm,
so
and I don't think Arkansas is great, so I think some
oh yeah.
people should take that with a grain of salt, how they looked, and I don't have the historical numbers scrunch on over-unders this season, but I don't think we're seeing one side or the other, like, predominantly, leading the other one. I think it's pretty even. So I think the odds makers and just the lines have been pretty efficient for the new clock rules, like, overall.
Yeah, yeah, it would be interesting once we have one season's worth of data to see how that's panned out because,
Mhm.
yeah, it is, I haven't really noticed anything, but, we still have a small sample size, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see, yeah, at the end of the season.
Mhm. Yeah. No doubt.